A debate that comes up again and again is how to organize your notes in Obsidian. Some people, like me, prefer to use links and metadata to do most of the heavy lifting. Some heathens prefer folders. Even stranger, some others prefer tags. In this video, I'm going to talk about the latest release of Obsidian version 1.2 and a new option that it brings for organizing your notes that's a bit of a compromise between some of the existing options. I've been testing this version for about a month now. Patreon's got a sneak preview of it a few weeks ago, but I wanted to hold off on making a full video until I could tell you not just what has changed, but also how it's changed my workflows. First, the what. The new feature is called Bookmarks, and it is going to replace the Starred Core plugin. If you'd never used the Starred plugin before, it was a way to kind of save a note for quick reference later, and that was pretty much it. It was only notes that you could do, you couldn't really combine them into groups or anything, and Bookmarks is like the Starred plugin, but supercharged. If you still have Notes starred, especially on mobile, then you may briefly see the starred plugin on your desktop as well, but that's going to go away because Bookmarks will supersede it entirely. Now let me show you how to add bookmarks. In Obsidian, it's going to automatically show up here on your left side panel, right after the search icon. To add a bookmark, you can go to a file that you want to add. Let's say this one. This is my world file for one of my games. And then you can either open up the command palette and type bookmark, and you can select that here, or you can also assign it a hotkey, which is what I've done because I do it quite often. So let's try that instead. I'm going to hit the shortcut here, and then now it's asking me where to save the bookmark. If I don't put anything in the title, it's just going to use the file name by default. But in this case, I probably want to say something a little bit more descriptive. So world, and then I'm just going to hit save because I want it to save it in the root directory. And if I collapse all of my bookmarks here, you'll see that there's now a new bookmark at the very bottom called the Slayers 5 World. The cool thing is that because it's not tied to the file name, I can really name it something else, whatever I want. And it can be an easier way to put a pin in something without changing the file name or the note. Then to open it up again, I can just click on it and it'll open up there. Now, if I already have some other thing here, let's say I have that note open, I can also just middle click on this and it'll open it up in a new tab. So you can also right click on it and then open in a new window, and that'll open that up in a separate Obsidian window. I can also hover over it in the bookmarks pane to kind of see a bit of a preview. So I'm holding down the command key for me, and then I'm just going to hover over it with my mouse, and you'll see that it also works with the plugin Hover Editor, which is what I've got here, styled using a Nupochin. This can be an easy way to kind of quickly see what's inside a note, even without clicking on it from the bookmarks pane. You can also remove a bookmark. You can do it through the command panel by clicking remove bookmark for current file. You can use the hotkey, or you can just open up the bookmarks panel and then right click and remove it. And it'll remove the bookmark, but it won't remove or delete the file. There are a lot of keyboard shortcuts for bookmarks as well. So even if you don't have that side panel enabled, you can always just open up the bookmarks panel. So even if it were like, if I left it here, for instance, and then I hit the shortcut for the bookmarks, it'll open it up right away. And you can also navigate bookmarks using your keyboard. So you can use the right key to kind of open and collapse some folders. You may also notice that I have these collapsible things here where I've grouped some bookmarks. A bookmark group is kind of like a folder. So you can think of nesting bookmark groups as having a directory and subfolders underneath it. It's a way to organize your bookmarks. You can also navigate bookmarks using keyboard shortcuts only. So if I hide the side panel here and I had it open to the File Explorer, I can use my keyboard shortcut to go straight into the bookmarks panel, and I can use the arrow keys on my keyboard to go up and down those bookmarks and also collapse and expand some of the bookmark groups. Now, to make a bookmark group, all I have to do is click on this new bookmark group, and I'll name it. This is my new group. And then I can click on something else. So let's click on another note and then use my keyboard shortcut to add something to it. And this time in the bookmark group, I'm going to select that this is my new group. So then I click save and it goes automatically into that group. What if I want to add a whole bunch of files to a group? Let me remove this and I'll open up this world pane and some of the characters. So now if I wanted to bookmark all of these, I could open up the command pane and click on bookmark all tabs. And when I click on that, it'll add all 4 of the pages that are currently open to a bookmark group of my choosing. So I'm going to call this Light of Memoria. And then I'll choose in the bookmark group, I'll put it under TTRPGs, and then I'll hit save. And you won't be able to see anything right away because it is in my bookmark group for TTRPG. So if I expand that, you'll see there's a new bookmark group within the bookmark group, and it's called Light of Memoria. And the 4 notes that I had open are now inside that. All of the hotkeys are available in options under hotkeys, and you can just type bookmarks and you can assign the shortcuts relating to bookmarks here. Unlike the Start plugin, there are a lot of things that you can bookmark, and the Obsidian team is already planning to expand that with at least one other thing. I've already shown you how to bookmark a note, but you can also bookmark a folder. Let me show you that. Just to show you this part a little bit more easily, I'm going to collapse all the bookmark groups, and then I'll move the bookmarks over to this pane so that I can show you the file explorer here. Because when you bookmark a folder, you may think that it's going to also bring in that folder as a group. It's not. Let me show you that. If I go to the folder that I want to bookmark, I can just drag and drop that folder into bookmarks. And now when I click on it within bookmarks, it's going to just bring me over into that file explorer. So even if I don't have that panel open, I can click on it and it'll show me where it is within the Obsidian Files plugin. You can also now bookmark headings. So let's say you wanted not just this entire note, but a specific section of it. Let's say sessions. You just need to highlight that and right click on it because there's nothing in the command pane for this yet. And then you can select bookmark this heading. And I'm going to call it sessions and click save. And it'll save it here on the bookmarks pane. So even if I have nothing open, if I click on that, it'll take me not just to the note, but to the specific section that I selected. Another thing that you can bookmark is a search. I'm going to also show you some improvements that they've made to the search UI. If you open up the search icon here, you may notice that there's now this search settings here, and it just makes it a little bit easier and less cluttered because it used to have like all of these icons and you had to hover over them to know what they really were. So now you can set them here through settings. Let's go ahead and do a search. Let's say I want to search for the word fragments, but I want it in a certain path. It's found a few different results here, and I'm going to click on this little ... icon next to the number of results, and then I can bookmark that as well. So I'm going to type search fragments. And then when I save it, it comes up in my bookmarks panel here. It might be a little bit hard to see because of the theme that I'm using and the fact that it's in dark mode, but this one has a little folder, this one has an H, and this one has a magnifying glass, just to show you what kind of bookmark it is. So now even if we exit out of that, I can always click on it and it'll take me right back to that particular search. I actually thought that that was all that you could bookmark, but then I watched a video by a channel called Boost Your Productivity. It is in French, I'm going to link it down below, but it talked about how you can also bookmark graphs. Here's how you do that. I'm going to open up the graph view here. And this is my graph. I'm going to click on settings here. You'll see I had some things already that were filled out. This is not the graph of my entire vault. I've already selected some groups and a path and colored it a certain way. So now I'm going to use the keyboard shortcut to bookmark this graph. and I'm going to call it TWC graph and then just hit save. And now it's over there. Now let's change this entirely so that it just looks a little bit different. So I'll remove the path. This is now everything in my vault, and I don't have any filters or anything that's colored. Now, if I click on this, it'll go back to the temporary white circle graph, but it'll show it with all of the settings that I previously had. So it's not just bookmarking the contents of the graph, it's actually bookmarking everything that you had selected in the settings for that particular graph. So then I started thinking about what else I could bookmark, and then I thought of Excalidraw. Excalidraw is a plugin by Zoltwitzian. I have covered this before, so check out the link here if you'd like to see that. I've also interviewed Zolt on this channel before. It is a plugin that I use quite a bit. Excalidraw is a way to bring graphics and drawings into your vault to make it a little bit more visual, and I found out that you can bookmark those as well. So over here on my Obsidian vault, I'm going to open up an Excalidraw drawing. This is my character named Ilara from the TTRPG 13th Age. So I imported this 13th Age character sheet, and I'm just changing the values of the character sheet itself. So I can just change your hit points like that, for example. But if I wanted to bookmark this entire thing, I'm just going to use the keyboard shortcut again, and I'm going to put the title, and then I'll put her name and character sheet, hit save, and now it is there. Now this isn't bookmarking just the image, because if I click on it, it'll take me to the drawing. There's a very big difference because I can then modify things with that drawing. Whereas if I were bookmarking the image itself, I'll show you that now. When I click on it, I'm not going to be able to change anything here because it's coming up as just like a static image. So you can bookmark both the actual Excalidraw drawing and any of the assets that you have, and the image itself. I also found out that you can also bookmark other assets, like maybe PDFs. So if I click on that, this is a tax document from the Belastingdienst, from the tax office of the Netherlands. But okay, if I wanted to bookmark that, Handbook ondernemen, and I'll click on that, and now this PDF is also bookmarked. And when I click on that, it's going to show up. The last version of Obsidian, version 1.1, introduced a new feature called Canvas. And guess what? You can bookmark canvases as well. So if I go into Obsidian and then look for a canvas that I've created, this is the one on organizing PDFs. I can also bookmark that and click save and always have that handy. So if I wanted to, I could go over there. Now I want to talk to you about how I'm using the bookmarks feature and some use cases that you might consider. The first is something that was mentioned by TFT Hacker. TFT Hacker is a person that has been around in the PKM community for a while. I actually started following him from when we were both using Roam Research. He really loves to explore a lot of different types of tools and also create plugins for those tools. He wrote this blog post about how one of the things that the bookmarks feature is good for is encouraging a Zen-like focus. And I really resonate with that because one of the reasons that I don't use folders that much is because absolutely everything is in there. And when you have several thousand notes like I do, then it just becomes a little bit overwhelming. Having bookmarks means that you can select which of those things you actually get to see. An example of this is how I bookmark things like my core principles and my yearly, quarterly, monthly, and weekly objectives. I already did a video on how I do those, but having them in my bookmarks keeps them top of mind for me. And again, I can always hover over any of them and just kind of remind myself what it is that I value. Another use case for bookmarks is a quick reference. This is already what the Start plugin was good at, but bookmarks is even better because you can have bookmark groups. For example, I've identified that there are some things that I always want to have handy, so I have this bookmark group for the YouTube channel and everything that goes along with it. I have a content board. This is the video that I'm making now, which I can click on, and that is exactly what I'm working off of right now. And then I have some other things that are video related. There's also some notes that are handy. So this is a search that I've bookmarked for feedback on my videos that opens up on the left here. And I also have a bookmark group for icky stuff, like people who approach me asking for sponsorships and some company and tax information. These are things that are very handy to just be able to pull up at any time. And that's why I have them in a bookmark group. And the third use case that I've found for bookmarks is as a temporary sort of workspace or scratch pad where I can put in things that I need front of mind right now, but I may not always want to have there in the future. If I had to do this with folders, then I would have like an underscore at the start, or some people use like letters just to bump them up to the top. With bookmarks, you can kind of just rearrange them as you want, so that's not as important, which means that it is like a topical snapshot of everything that you're interested in right now. For example, I am currently working on a presentation called Emergent Load Testing, and here are some of my notes for it. This is the note from my Kindle highlights from a relevant book, all the way to the actual presentation, which is not complete, but I do have some things here, and I like being able to switch back and forth between them. So this is what I do when I kind of want a more familiar folder structure. Other times though, I could just create a new canvas, and then I can start dragging and dropping some of these notes onto that canvas. So then I have my Kindle highlights here, and then I could also open up my presentation. And then I could also link them together in a canvas. So I could do this for everything that's on here, or I could have this view and also have the canvas. So I could save it there, and now I can kind of flip between the two views, just looking at them in the bookmarks group here, or also having the canvas here for something a little bit more visual. And with canvas, I can also go into it and, edit if I need to, or just scroll down. I also have a TTRPGs folder where I have, for example, the index of all of my games that I've played here, and I have a heading bookmark here for the game sessions that I have yet to process. I know that there's a lot. And I can also have a folder bookmark that goes directly to my combat log. This combat log is used by another plugin, Initiative Tracker, and it is a way for me to keep track of things that are happening within combat. And I can't bookmark to the exact note because when I start combat, it just goes to the end of this folder. So it's handy actually to be able to bookmark the folder rather than an individual note. I also have my TTRPG games here arranged according to when they occur. And I have here, for example, in my temporary white circle one, I have a bookmarked search for all of the sendings that my character has done. I also have a bookmark to that temporary white circle graph that I showed you. And then I can drill down into some of the more important factions or places or people that I want to be more analytical about for this campaign. I also have a different bookmark group here for graphs. So this one is for everything that's in my vault. This is for my company, for the team that I work for. And this is all of my notes that have K6 in them, and it has some things as well, like the purple nodes are people. And it's nice to be able to see the clusters that have formed. So these are some system related ones. I also have another graph here about load testing because it's a subject that I'm very interested in, and it's something that I want to go back to. Bookmarking this graph view helps me explore my notes to see what clusters have formed about load testing. So obviously load testing tool is one of them, and K6, which is a tool, is one of them. But it's just interesting to be able to see these bigger ones, like performance testing is a pretty big one there. I'd like to create a list of graphs for every topic that I'm interested in so that I can regularly review them. I want to briefly talk about some other things in this release other than the big bookmarks feature, because there were also some pretty cool improvements. I already talked about the improvements in the search UI, where it's now not as cluttered, and how you can also bookmark a search. The other thing is about exporting PDFs. Now, I do this quite a bit because there are still a lot of people in my life who don't use Obsidian, and so if I want to take my notes and share it with them, I sometimes export to PDF. The problem that I was facing with exporting to PDF previously is that I frequently use dark mode for my vaults, and when exporting to PDF, it still used like the lighter font colors against a white background, which was no good. Now, exporting to PDF automatically will use the light theme. So you don't have to do what I did, which is to go into Appearance, switch to light theme just to be able to export to PDF, and then switch back to dark mode. For example, if I wanted to export this to PDF, I don't have to do anything. I'm just going to export it. And now that note is going to be automatically displayed with light mode enabled. This is such a small thing, but it's a really good quality of life improvement. There are also some improvements on the hotkeys front. So you could always search for hotkeys, but now you can search by the shortcut, which is really handy if you have the same shortcut for a bunch of things. So then you can just actually do the shortcut and it'll say, hey, that one was your shortcut for a new note. And it'll show you which commands that hotkey had been assigned to. You can also now filter by assigned or unassigned. So if there are commands that you do want to assign, so if you just wanted to go and see everything that was assigned or unassigned, then you can filter that way. There are also new tab commands. So now there are commands and corresponding default shortcuts for going to tabs, for instance, kind of like making Obsidian a little bit closer to your browser experience. And another feature in this release that deserves to be talked about a little bit more is better handling for aliases. An alias is kind of like another name for a note. For example, I have a note called Zadash in two different folders. You can see that I have one in temporary white circle and one in this layers 5. Those are two different campaigns that I've got. And it was always a problem because I wanted to refer to the right one. Now, when I click on either of them, instead of having this long path, it's going to automatically add this alias so that it's just going to say Zadash instead of the full file path. And you might think that I'm setting that manually, but if we go into that note, it's actually not there. I'm not setting it as an alias previously. I had to set that as an alias here, and that's how I would do it. But now it's just done automatically for all file names so that when you look at your notes, you don't have this long file path. The question of how to organize notes in Obsidian is an important one, but it doesn't really matter which one you choose. You can choose a combination or permutation of folders, links, tags, metadata, and now bookmarks as well. If you'd like a more detailed look into the advantages of each one, then check out this video where I show you those and also show you what I do and what I use each of those things for. Thank you for watching. Wir reisen alle Fenster auf, Sonne rein und Alltag raus.